here we go.
Welcome, Collective, to another great episode of Brews and Builds. And this episode could not have been done except by our amazing patrons. Whether you're part of the Collective, Squeeze Choir, BigTucks, Mr. Combo, Storm Count, it doesn't matter. We love you guys and thank you for the support. Hey guys, welcome to episode 125 of CMD Tower's Brews and Builds. I'm MrComboNumber5 and my fellow host is the nemesis of reason, BigTuck.
I think you've used that one before.
Well, guys, a great way that you can support CMD Tower is to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have 4 different tiers for literally $1 a month. You can get into the Discord, you get entered into a bunch of ways to interact with the cast on our episodes, or for $5, $15, or $25, you actually get swag, and continually get new swag whenever we do come out with new drops. So, patreon.com/CMD Tower. Now, if you're an existing patron of the Collective and you have someone you want to refer, just make sure they message us on Patreon. We do have a great referral program, so if you get someone to sign up, depending on what tier, will kind of depend on what free swag we send you. So be sure to grow the Collective. Now, we do have a great store. It finally is up and running after a weird WordPress WooCommerce decided to give us the bird and just shut down for however long it was shut down. Did get orders shipped out at cmdtower.com/merch. That's where you're going to be able to get our amazing Jund sweater. That's where you're going to be able to get our foil playmat, our matte sleeves, our reminder tokens, coins, all of the different accoutrements you need to bling out your cardboard. So be sure to head over to cmdtower.com/merch. Also, you've probably heard myself and others talk about their amazing playtest cards that we've used in the past, whether it's when we play with our local play group or even when we do specialty episodes like the Najila episode upcoming or even the Game of Thrones episode. You should head over to abyssproxyshop.com, use the code CMDTower to get 10% off your order. That is stackable, so any other existing discounts on the website, you will get in conjunction with your 10%. And the great thing is every order you do with them, CMD Tower does get a little bit back, so we can keep the lights on and continue to improve that content. So if you need a playtest or proxy card, abyssproxyshop.com. This video wouldn't have been able to be done without our video engineer at _tcoats. Tyler does all the video editing for CMD Tower. So be sure to follow us on YouTube, watch the videos, let us know what kind of content you want to see. So that way we can constantly improve it and get those numbers up. So Brews and Builds is our deck tech series. Since we conquered the path to 32, the 12 themes of EDH decks, we have moved on to the classic brew from day one, Brews and Builds, with a traditional episode. So we describe the brewing of decks similar to how beer is brewed. So we broke it down into 4 different categories. The first one's ramp and setting your board state. We call that grains.
Yes, and grains are the foundation of every beer. They include both base malts and specialty malts, usually in a 60-40 ratio. This helps with the color, the taste, and most importantly, the alcohol content of the beer. Decks always need ways to grow and stabilize and ramp in your bigger threats, and just like a grain profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
So without further ado, let's get brewing.
Boom!
Today, we, in episode 125, BigTuck beat me to the deck, so therefore I can never build this.
Oh, you wanted to build this?
Built the best Antioch tribal possible with Umbris imbuing nightmares in your dreams. So this is Umbris Fear Manifest. Let's start with the rampant grain section. BigTuck, what's the first grain card we need for Umbris?
Okay, so one of the things I found out about this is that a lot of cards that I think are very cute and are kind of pet cards of mine just so happen to arbitrarily, just like the warrior thing last week, arbitrarily be nightmares or otherwise. So this is the demon varietal. And not only is he going to punch some face, he's going to help you thin out your deck a little bit. So we were talking about whispers. We're talking about Doom Whisper. So Doom Whisper is a 3 colorless black creature, nightmare demon. That's a mythic rare. It's a 6/6, it's flying and trample, which on its own is completely busted. But more importantly, it's got this ability, which I love. Pay 2 life, so you can just kill yourself if you are at an even mana cost.
I've done it many times on Arena.
Always important. Wait, really? You're like, I'm just done with this game. I'm just dropping this out.
No, it's just like they're about to win, and it's like, no, you don't kill me. I kill
Oh,
me.
that's amazing. So it's got pay 2 life and then surveil 2. So look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest on top of your library in any order. And there is some flavor text here, which we will be reading. Of course, Tavalis, Acolyte of Corliss, aka our Lord and Savior, Canoe Reeves. Whoa, the sound of every twisted secret tempts you to hear another. That's like
That's all
older.
right.
It's older. It's not
Yeah.
great. I'm all out of sorts. So anyway, the Surveil 2 is kind of a nombo in this deck because I took out all of my graveyard interaction except for things that specifically exile graveyards. So a lot of times you're like, I'm gonna play this card once and that's it. So it kind of is a little bit of deck thinning in that regard. But overall, just very fair costed. Can defend, can get in the red zone, and also can kind of filter through to find you that land that you need so desperately.
That's the only reason I think it's fine for the deck. I mean, it's an on-curve card, better than an on-curve card. But you don't have any of that graveyard interaction.
Yeah.
But you do have a 5 CMC commander. You cast it once, he dies. It's now 7. And like you talked about, if you're stuck at 5, Doom Whisperer is going to save you because now it's like, I'll just keep paying 2 life till I find a land. I need a land.
Exactly.
So yeah, good card.
And he just happens to be a nightmare for whatever reason. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just get it over with. I couldn't resist talking about her.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, Antioch Nightmare Weaver.
Go
My favorite
ahead.
planeswalker of all time. Colorless dimir, blue and black, planeswalker Ashiok Mythic. It's a 3 loyalty for about $7. Has 3 activated abilities. And actually, this deck, all 3 are relevant.
Mm-hmm.
+2, exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. BigTuck can attest, guys. I've had Ashiok on board with like 19 loyalty because I've done that
every
top
turn.
effect so much, and no one ever kills her. So that's busted. It's great. -X, put a creature card with Gavarena cost X, exiled with Ashiok, onto the battlefield under your control. That creature is a nightmare in addition to its other types, which is great because giving it that subtext. Yep, it's a nightmare. It gets the commander trigger. And typically I ignore the -10, but in this deck, exile all cards from all opponents' hands and graveyards. It's pretty great because that's even more fuel for your commander. So it literally checks every box, and to me, it's on curve at 3.
Yeah, it's on curve. I think this is ironically the only deck where someone is going to actively attack Ashiok, right? Like
You
it's
have to.
Yeah, because most of the time, like you said, it just sits around. You're like, okay, you do 3, but next time, don't worry, I'll get them 2 times next time.
Yep.
Right? It just kind of is this bouncing ball around the table. I didn't get, spoiler alert, this may or may not be the only Ashiok in the deck. But I didn't get to see this or any of their brethren the one time that I played the deck, which was a real
that's unfortunate.
which is a real bummer.
Yep. Well, Tuck, give us your next grain card.
All right. This is a weird one, but it's really, really good in this deck, and it's kind of a utility in decks that need to draw lands potentially. It is an Eldrazi, of which there's only 1 or 2 because they don't have Nightmare subtext. So we are talking about Oblivion Sower.
Oh.
Oblivion Sower, maybe? Okay, so 6 colorless for a creature Eldrazi. That's a 5/8. It's a mythic for about $3. So when you cast Oblivion Sower, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of his or her library, which is good in of itself, right? Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield under your control. And we are talking, damn it, Nyrex, Slipfinger, Master Thief, aka Kermit the Frog. Oh, hello there, Miss Piggy. The Eldrazi hunger. I don't know if you knew this, children, but the Eldrazi hunger without limit and consume without pause. Oh, I'll take it. They're all rim shot. So I think this card is really good in a lot of decks. I run it in my Rakdos deck. I think it's probably one of the best ramp cards in a mono Eldrazi sort of deal. But here, this thing is like the ceiling on it's so high, right? Like what you could get 10 lands back if someone got unlucky with when you hit them with one of your exile spells, right? Or if you exile a graveyard and they have a bunch of fetch lands in there. I just think this thing is going to be able to catapult you into that last end game With such a high CMC, you really need something like this to come through and get you 5 lands, 10 lands, that sort of thing, so you can close out the game with one of your other beasts.
Yeah, I mean, this card's awesome. Don't ever come at me, people, when you say you can't ramp in other colors, like
Oh,
outside
yeah.
of green, because you can put Oblivion Sour in your deck, and 6 isn't absurd for a 5/8,
No.
and you're going to get at least one land off of it. So it's like, would
Right.
you pay 6 to have a 5/8 and one land? I don't know. Maybe not at Mythic, but the fact that you can get up to 4 and it's any lands, that just makes it absolutely phenomenal. So I love the
Absolutely.
card, and I think it's great.
Hey.
Well, I thought you were talking about this Eldrazi because
Oh.
this boy is mean,
Oh.
and he is the sire of stagnation.
Oof. Oof.
Oof.
It's so hard.
4 colorless dimir, blue and black, creature Eldrazi mythic from Battle for Zendikar. It's a 5/7. And it has a devoid, so the card technically doesn't have a color. This is when they did the stupid thing of giving Eldrazi's a color identity, but no color identity.
Dumb.
But whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player exiles the top 2 cards of his or her library, and you draw 2 cards. And I do have text.
You do have a text. Hold on. The class tools is going. And we have our old pal, Sarash, Keeper of the Cloud, aka an old-timey gangster.
As the great scourge passed sea, my Zendikar shivered, then laid silent, you dame.
Now hit that explosion. Give me that explosion.
I just did it.
I know. I just remember. I think last time it went like 2 times in a row by accident, right?
Yeah. So this card's great because basically it essentially says, guys, in that mid to late game, like, yeah, if you want to, like, I don't know, Splendid Reclamation, okay. Well, you might lose your library.
Mhm.
Or you still want to do that late game Kadama's Reach? I don't know, do you?
Yeah.
I think even if you never get a trigger off of this card, that means it was probably even better than getting the trigger. Because that means your opponent's literally never played lands.
Yeah. And like, there's like the best nut draw in this deck is like 3 lands, 3 mana rocks, and then this card, right?
Oh,
Like
sure.
it's insane. Like getting this thing out any turn besides turn 5 where people are still building their boards is completely bonkers. I've gotten hosed by this card so many times, and I have yet to be able to play it. So again, these Eldrazi's just keep slipping through the cracks for me, unfortunately.
Well, give us your last grain card.
All right, this is the one I want your opinion on, and I wouldn't be surprised if you were talking about this card later. It is an enchantment that really depends on what creatures you have in your hand.
Hmm.
And we are talking about Reflections of Littjara. So, 4 colorless and a blue for an enchantment. It's a rare for around $2. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. So, whenever you cast a creature of the chosen type, copy that spell. And I do have a little bit of text to read here. Oh, yes. Jonald, Mission Naturalist, aka the Animal Tour lady. Well, folks, if you look over to the right side of the boat, you may see something that might be reminding you of how the masts float downstream towards the Mirror Lake, where faces arise to wear them.
Ma'am, can you have your child sit down, please?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ma'am, please.
I'm begging you. The funniest one of that is she's like, they have those prop guns, right? That like are blanks. And on her, the one that I'm thinking of literally went, oh no, folks, here comes the rhino. Better protect ourselves. Blam, blam.
Oh
Got
my
him. And then
god.
just went on. I really want this card to work. I bought a bunch of copies of it expecting it to be expensive. I've not been able to cast it anywhere. And because I know you're going to ask this, if you look at the tribal count between nightmares or horrors, I am at, when I counted, of 24, which usually passes the bill of our 19 to 20 to consider a planeswalker deck, a tribal deck, that sort of things. Now, before I pass it over to you, we're just going to go ahead straight to the bottle capping and just bring this one up.
Well, you do realize that this is cast, so you have
Yes.
to be casting stuff. You also realize that it's creature type. So you just said nightmare and horror. You have 24.
Correct.
Which one do you have of each, though? Because nightmares and horrors are separate.
I didn't get that far into it, but assuming what I have in my hand, I think you could make the justification for it one way or the other.
I'm going to argue no, but that's not what
Fair.
we're here to talk about. So I think this card also reads better than probably it plays. I bought some copies as well, put it
Mhm.
in my sliver deck, thinking that it was going to do it. I've never been able to cast it as
Mm.
well, so I don't really actually know, does it work? I think the biggest thing is I think we got to look at this card. 5 mana. What else is out there that I can draw cards? That's an enchantment for around 5 mana. And I want to say, isn't that blue enchantment where whenever you draw a card, you draw two? Isn't that only 2 mana more? I think
I
it's
think that's I
seven.
think that's 4, isn't it?
Or is it four? It's like
It's got something with Teferia, right?
no. I'm thinking of that very standard. They've made a million of them. And it's part of the cycle. Like there's a red one that I think if you deal damage, it deals extra damage. The blue one you draw a card.
Thought
Green
reflection.
thought reflection. I think thought reflection 6 or 7. So
Yes.
I would argue that's probably better than this because you'll probably get to draw more off of that.
Mhm.
But I think this is a card that you probably can't assess until you see it played. And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, with it, if you actually have 24 of one type, I think that it does actually have a spot. So, well, I'm going to wrap this up with a card that I like cards that just you playing the game does your strategy. That I'm huge fans of that, especially
Yep.
when you're getting nichey. Dread Presence does that
Oh, yep.
phenomenally. 3 colorless black, creature nightmare. It's a rare. It's a 3/3. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Draw a card, lose a life, or Dread Presence deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life. But who is this silly voice going to be?
That is a good question. We have Thrun, the
Hodor!
Last Troll, Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Oh, it beckons silently, brother. Waiting in the darkness. Step into a Slim Jim. Oh, yeah.
I got you for 3 minutes, freak show.
I got you for 3 minutes. It's playtime.
Yeah. That's incredible.
So yes, Dread Presence is a great card. And this is actually a card tuck that I think it's a grain early game, and then it becomes a hops late game.
Yeah.
I don't think it has any yeast or spice potential, but grain for sure, because in the beginning, you're going to be playing your lands. Hey, let me draw a card, lose a life. Let me draw a
Yeah.
card, lose a life. Eventually, it's going to get to the point like, okay, I got enough cards, or I have other engines. I don't need to keep losing life. Okay, play down a swamp, 2 damage to your birds of paradise. I'm going to gain 2 life. Oh, I'm going to shoot your commander down for 2 damage. I think this has a lot of versatility. The 4 mana, and I even think that's fairly costed.
Yeah. And again, like, I think if this card wasn't a nightmare, because I'm not running Urborg, I'd have a little bit more of a hard time going with it. But like you said, I checked and like I do have a lot or all 3 of the dual type lands. So even though I only have X amount of swamps, it is boosted a little bit. So yeah, this is a card that you brought to my attention many moons ago, and I was so glad that I could finally find a place to immediately slot it into a new deck.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up the grain section.